as I already have promised more or less, this will be some kind of an interactive session today with a topic which is interesting. So I already see Petra already have, used the smartphone and want just to check, you can scan the QR code or you just can go to this ahaslides.com/WOVRT and y.0 because that's the second time I'm here. So I'm just remembering. So I'm numbering already more or less my presence here at the end. So this is about mastering tips on client presentations. It's more or less today a non-technical session, or of course, as Sarah already said, I've been invited very shortly and preparing all that kind of stuff on a short notice. Yeah, but this is something I can just pull out again. And I think this is a very important topic. And the reason why it's important is more or less when I'm just showing that on the next slide. So first of all, I think the majority just knows me, but for anyone who just doesn't know me, my name is Bülent. I'm based in Germany, and I'm working with Avanade more or less nearly 14 years now. Most of the time in the field, but in the last 5 years in the training department. I love Dynamics 365. I love Power Platform. And now I have the luck to maintain this with a new role I've just got assigned this month as a global business portfolio lead. So I can do all my kind of nonsense there. So I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer since 2021. What I have learned by one of a very long-term MVP. Oh, you're a baby MCT in that case. Of course, if you're 25 years MVP, obviously I just can't come up. But I try to reach that kind of at least number in MCP stack. And yeah, since this year, I think the majority knows already, community contributor. So I started this year to make my nonsense in the LinkedIn world as well. There was a post where I just posted. I passed some kind of numbers now on LinkedIn, and you got all the reasons there. I also have a blog, which currently in this August it's quite very quite there. So I haven't posted something there, but hopefully I can post something for August before I just go to my well-deserved vacation next week. So, but more interestingly is what I'm just talking today about. So what I'm talking about is obviously, first of all, doing an introduction to the topic. Then I will talk about the kind of delivery, what kind of delivery we have. So most that will not really surprise you, but at the end, what's more interesting is the important elements of a presentation, how to make a presentation a really success, and also some good preparation tips, at least what I have just collected throughout the last years. So let's see if I can surprise you as well with this. So before I do this is an interactive session. So if you just logged into this is an icebreaker question. How much does a polar bear weigh in average? And I just put this as well into, I knew that the first one would say enough to break the ice because it's an icebreaker, obviously. I just converted that to pounds because we have British folks. But if you're coming from Europe like me, just divide it by 2 and then you have the kilogram there as well. So, and I can see already majority is really happy about this with number 3. Enough to break the ice. And that's the intention of this icebreaker, to bring in a kind of a good mood into a session. And that helps with clients as well. This can be taken as a question, but if you have more a client, so before COVID or during COVID, a very popular question was also, what's your favorite Corona? And then you have all the beers brands there as well, which also helps, at the end, just to get a better mood into the call. So I like that when you just have select this one. The average answer, by the way, correctly is this one, 800 pounds. Good. Another game, which I've placed as well, as I said, it will be interactive. I wanted to make Sarah very happy. I just have put in this Power App logo somewhere into the slides. So you have to follow. You have to bring in your whole attention just to find this one. And once you just find it like this, you just have to put in this thumbs up. But you can also use the other ones as well. So I already guarantee you will now focus with that kind of eagle eyes to that presentation just to find and spot all that kind of stuff. But enough fun for now. Now let's start with the introduction, how you just want to do this, and let's have a full focus on what we want just to achieve today. So first question to you. So you see this picture. What is your first thought on this when you see this? So if you have now your smartphone there, and now just bringing this back again, if you hadn't already been there. So what is the first thing you're just thinking? Just give you a couple of seconds for you. And that gives me enough time to drink. Heights, deep tunnel, long road. Who wrote road? You must be an architect. Very good. Snake, I like snake as well. And someone already put, a funny emoji. That can only one person I imagine that could be. So, but I will not name her name in that case. So the reason why I'm just asking that kind of question is, and thank you for answering this, is the road of success is long and not straightforward. So this is the main message. So that means in that case, if you just do a presentation, don't take that easy. And why I'm saying this, I mean, the majority is already experienced and know what I'm just talking about. But every time I'm executing trainings, and at the end, I demand, please do a presentation of what you have just created during the training. There are so many brilliant minds, but the kind of lacking the time for a presentation is horrible experience. People are just, doing much more on that solution till 5 minutes to the end. And then, we had to do a presentation and put something together. And then you see the kind of, I'm sorry to say, crap of a presentation. That might help, within an internal one, but that doesn't help definitely with clients. You need to put much more effort into this. Majority knows this, but I see that especially with newcomers and new joiners, this is not every time the case. So the kind of delivery. So we're just talking about two kinds of delivery. And if you're looking carefully on this picture, then you will also see something there as well. So there are online delivery and there's in-person delivery. That means the in-person delivery usually at the client side, especially if you're working for a system integrator or for a consulting company, that's usually the case where you're just going and driving to a client and just do this. So that changed, with COVID a little bit. So online delivery is more or less the case. So you're not really driving to a client anymore. You usually are really doing this online, which is a little bit different since it was a couple of years ago. But there are some rules to follow to be very successful on this. And we're starting with the online delivery first. These are very simple rules and you will laugh at me, but if you follow them, then everything is good. But first things first, join a little bit earlier to the call as, at the top at the call. Pretty simple, right? But sometimes you have another meeting and then you hang in that meeting. Sometimes this meeting is overdue and then you jump. It doesn't make any kind of a good impression if you come too late or you just join right on time, maybe, but your presentation is not open. Or maybe there's another, kind of notes and other things which the new client you just want to present shall not see and all that kind of things. And sometimes the demo is not working. So it's always good to join earlier, 15 minutes, maybe a little bit earlier, and just check also if your presentation and all the things which you have just configured is working. Pretty simple. The thing, start the meeting with the camera turned on seems an easy one, but I see especially in meetings that a lot of people just don't turn the cameras on. That might have different reasons. Maybe your internet connection is not that good, but in times like this, that should not be the case anymore. Yeah? One of the reasons people just tell me, yeah, I'm shy on camera. I feel more comfortable. I'm not feeling comfortable in front of the camera. Aha, okay. So if you go and meet the client, you're also doing like this, you're having your hands off and you're not talking, you're talking like this. Oh, client, you're still there. Oh, that's great. So you're not doing this. So in real life, you're also, facing the client face by face. And that's the same with the camera as well. It gives the clients a chance to see your face, how you present. That the client is not opening the camera, you can't read their emotions. Of course, this is a disadvantage, but it's always polite to turn the camera. If you have a problem with that, then just put behind the camera a picture, either of your beloved child. Mine is an emotional terrorist, for example, which I can just place there. Or maybe you have just a very little nice geeky device, which you have just bought and make a picture and put into the camera. And you can all the time, like in love, looking at this kind, at least ways of looking at the camera is not that hard if you just do that kind of stuff. And what I also found out is sometimes if you're in a team, everyone has a different background. You know, someone has, like me, for example, some water drops. Some people have, you know, a really heavy metal band maybe in the background or something like this. So you should be aligned. The client sees this unconsciously. You know, if you just do this with the same background, the client already knows you are aligned. You know, simple, but it can have an effect. This is my favorite one. Set the expectation in the beginning of a presentation. So if you start this, just tell the client what the client can expect today. I have seen so many client presentations where I also were part of that, by the way, where the client at the end says, that's not what I've expected. I'm disappointed. This is not what you want to hear as feedback. So tell the client in the very first beginning what they can expect. You can also do, like, if you have an interactive tool, an expectation round, and then you can just go to all this and say, this is what we're covering today, and this is not, because you save the client valuable time. If someone says, okay, today I'm not hearing what I want, then this person can go out, and they have only the lucky ones at the end there. That is very helpful for a good mood during a client meeting. And establish ground rules. Ground rules like, do you allow clients or people to interrupt you? So if you, like me, I have no problems if people can interrupt me because I'm not losing somehow my point and I can continue. And I also know how elegantly I can go over, you know, sometimes clients asking questions, another question, another question. And if there's a technical guy, they're asking questions. And if you have business people around, they're bored. And this is very interesting just to manage that. So what you can do, let's do a Q&A at the end, or, you know, you have a parking lot, right? A whiteboard, and you say, okay, we're writing this down, interesting thing. And sometimes also think about before you answer. Sometimes you just don't know the answer. Instead of answering something wrong, write it down. I've seen so many times, you know, I was on a project, I've done everything more or less good, but they remembered the one term that I said wrong in that 9 months entirely. You can say what kind of a joy it was that they're remembering. They have that kind of an elephant brain. So fantastic. So everything else, what you did good, you can't correct this anymore. Optional. If this is an interactive presentation, let people know. You know why I like an interactive presentation? Let's assume this is a workshop. And if it's a workshop and you just agree, for example, on a security concept, months later, once you just established, I've seen some people stepping up. No one asked me. I'm not happy with that. Because during a workshop, you know, there's sitting 10 people, you're talking with 2 people, mostly. The others are shy, not saying something. And you're talking with 10, and the 2 are happy because you just implemented what you have just discussed. But the other just came and says, yeah, but you never asked me. You can bypass that by saying everyone gets sticky notes. And everyone writes down what's on your mind. And if people still not writing something down, you can still remind people. We had that kind of an interactive session, you know. If you're shy, then write something anonymous. Pretty simple. I say pretty simple. I know in reality, there will still some people who are very, very smart and find ways just to say, I don't like your work. Reinforced disclaimer. If the session has been recorded, this is a must. Just remember, remind the people regarding this. You know, that's always polite. And last but not least, ask people to mute the button. So sometimes this is managed automatically and the moderator mutes that, but sometimes, you know, some people comes from a meeting and speaks in Spanish or just, you know, say something to a wife. So, merhaba Ayşe, belki ben sen bunu yapmadım, belki bunu yapmadım. And then you just like, what did I wrong? You know, in that case, you're just completely distracted in that moment. You know, in that case, it's always good to remind people because it distracts me all the time. And I'm working in a global, I have Portuguese, Spanish, Turkish, a lot of languages I've just heard where I just got interrupted. And that's pretty simple how you can get interrupted. So, but there's also in-person meeting. It's a little bit different. Most of the tips which you have seen on the review also applies to the in-person meeting. But in person, just arrive a little bit earlier. Because there can things happen. You can be in a rush hour and you just can't come right on time there. Maybe you just arrive right on time there, but then you have just forget your charger and you have only battery for 30 minutes, but your presentation goes 1 hour. So good luck with finding one, especially when you're in UK and I've only that European plugin, which does not fit into, for example. Or also one of my favorite is, finding an adapter. Oh, yeah, right. I just wanted to plug, and my new computer does not support VGA anymore. Oh, because the things, and this kind of things can happen. Before you get under stress, take your time, arrive earlier so you aren't in that kind of a stress. And secondly, all the breaks which you're initiating are very valuable time for you to do the networking part. So in that case, you can't talk during a workshop, during a whole day about the things sometimes, but allow people that they can come to you and ask and network. I know that from conferences and the session 45 minutes is not long enough and people still have questions and then come afterwards because there's an announcer, 45 minutes with a clock and say, get out. The next one is now, in the room and they want to connect there. But still people have questions and lunch and breaks are fantastic moments in that case to connect and understand also the deeper problems in that case with the client. And that's my favorite one. I know that since university time, people who just walk in and walk out is also super disturbing. If this is a room, a small room designed for 20 people, but suddenly there are 100 people there, can be get warm, can be get nice, but if you don't know how to say to the people, please go out, because sometimes it's on the client side and so on. Just remind people of the safety, this is a room maybe not designed for 100 people, right? For safety, I don't want to be responsible, and remind people regarding this. And if people still resist, we want to be there and so on, you can also, ask a product owner from the client, to be helpful here in that case, or maybe also, say we can have a second session if you want, or something else, you decide if you accept people or decline people. If you're feeling sovereign to handle 100 people, then it's good. But if you're not feeling sovereign because you are the first time there, right? So do yourself a favor and don't put additional stress on you regarding this. Important elements of a presentation. When you see this picture, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? So this is again an interactive question. Anyone else who have joined the walk-ins a little bit later? So in that case, let's have a look here, what you want to write and give as a feedback. And I designed this interaction things only, then I can drink. Drinking is very important. And I'm sponsored by. Good, awesome. So we have some words already. So kindergarten or daycare, right? There's some kind of entertaining happening at school, it's teaching, leader, following along, full attention, right? That's exactly where I wanted to go there, with the full attention. If you have a group of small kids around 3 and 4 or 5 years old, if you tell them a story, you're reading a book, you can see their attention is not that great like with grown-ups, and their patience also isn't, that. So that means if you tell them a little story like, oh, look at this, we live on Earth, and Earth, has a radius of, I don't know, 6,300 kilometers and all that stuff. And you give all the facts. Do you think the kids will follow you? Then the first kid will start playing with their shoe, or will do blah, 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 I don't know what, or maybe we'll just, push the other kite and so on. Then there will chaos there. So it's important to handle a client sometimes like a kid. So how can I guarantee that the client is following me? I'm not saying now that the client is kid. If this is the part of video that VRT is just, ending out and just putting it into the internet, I know my career is already at the end. I know, but what I want to say is in that case is it's important to catch the attendance and keep it as high as possible for a long time. This is important. With kids, you have to manage that as a parent all the time. And it's the same during a client presentation as well. So what I'm just talking here about is storytelling. And storytelling is very important. And one of the soft skills I can tell you, which is not that strong as mostly our technical skills. And that's unfortunately a fact. It's not a problem of me or of you or something, but it's generally what we just learn in our career, in our technical career, are the technical stuff. I'm very good at developing. I have skills, and I have now a badge here, I have a badge there, I'm a super contributor there, and I don't know what kind of stuff, But the soft skills are the ones which make our life really successful in our daily business. At the end, how can I sell something? You're a developer, not a seller, but to be honest, you are selling something you just built and you're very proud of. You need to understand to tell the story about. And when I'm just talking about this is one of the most important part is you need to tell them a compelling narrative, which is at the end exciting enough so everyone is just listening to you. So how can I do this? I give you 2 examples. One example is this one. Majority of you knows I have something to do with Copilot Studio. So that's why I've just built in this again. Oh no, this guy again with this Copilot Studio stuff. So if I come to the client and just tell the client, hey, I use Copilot Studio because it's useful for me. What do you think how the client will react on this kind of what I told him? Will he says, oh yeah, you're the Copilot Studio guy, right? I believe you. Nah, that will not happen. That will not really happen. Now, this is not really interesting. Even if it's a statement, even if it's true, it doesn't really, the client doesn't care about that. And the reason for this is you have the 3 W's. So first of all, who's involved in that situation? You need to understand the client behind. So usually you have your advisory guys and just doing the unravel, the mystery about who's been there. What is the pain point? And this is the second point, why is there a conflict? So why are we sitting here all together in that case? So what's your problem? So why are we doing this all? And at the end, that's why clients are sitting here. They just want to see what kind of a solution you have, right? So how do you think you would solve that for us? So that's the most interesting part. So understand who they are, understand what is their pain point, and understand how can you help them with your service at the end. So this is one of the most exciting storytelling I've seen in my life. Unfortunately, for a long time. So I tell you the story about that. So 2006, that was the first time when I was in university, I came with an Apple product, an iPod. I was so fascinated because every MP3 player which I had was from the UX a real catastrophe. They were really unusable. So the iPod was the first one where I said, okay, great. And then I followed, beginning 2007, the first iPhone presentation. I was sitting there. It was my first conference I was watching. I've never watched technical conferences from any of our Microsoft, Apple, or whoever they are before. This was one of the most amazing and impressive presentations I've ever seen in my life. And on the right side, if you're there, there's if you don't know this video, I recommend to watch this video. Even you will see elements of the smartphone where you say today, really, that was a factor? Because it's normal today, but during this time, this was revolutionary. And you will see a very great narrative there, which I will show you on the next page if you don't watch this. So first of all, let me see. The spotlight works so fantastic. No, it doesn't work when I'm just using on a background. That's why I love to use white backgrounds. But okay, anyhow, here in the left side, create a compelling narrative. So what Steve Jobs did in that case is he said, we have a brand new iPod. We have now a phone, and we have a breakthrough internet communication device, which during this time didn't exist. Everyone in the audience thought this would be 3 products. And at the end, there was just, this put all together till people understood this is not 3 devices, this was 1 device. And that was a super surprise to everyone. And everyone was like, yeah, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, these are Apple folks. These are crazy ones. This I have just to say. These are fans. This is not really audience and all that kind of stuff. But it was really an energizing moment in this moment. And what happened is you can also, and you should use data and evidence. We see that in every Microsoft presentation in the very beginning. By the way, the ones I don't like, to be very honest. So, for example, 23% of the people we just asked are doing this one. Oh, with Copilot, you can reduce your time to from 50% to I don't know what, and all that kind of stuff, statistics. Statistics are true, but they're not touching me. You know, there should be a story behind which should touch me. I know it's hard to do this in that short amount of time, but look at this. This was, for example, an explanation. You know, you have cell phones there. They are not that smart, and then hard to use. You have all that kind on the left side, and of course, the iPhone was the top. Of course, you have to do some kind of advertisement for your own product. But if you do something like this, obviously, this kind of data and evidence is a little bit easier to understand than for the people. Emotional connection. So I know some folks of you just doing this quite well. So for example, if you have a personal story, you just tell. I tell you also a personal story afterwards, this one, then you will understand this a little bit better. If you create that emotional connection to the client is listening to you. If you're staying all the time during a presentation with distance, it's cold, why shall the client follow you if you don't have understood the client's problem? You know, but if you've understood, you're creating a connect. If it's an emotional connection, then it's much better. I just put in this picture because this picture is now iconic. Steve Jobs said, hey, we're using an iPhone with a stylus, right? Everyone wants a stylus. That was this little mini tiny things which you used. That was before the time you used it. I lost him every time. I was driving a car. I tried with my navigation system with the stylus. I never hit the right place. And then it fall in my car into, of course, under the seat, and I couldn't reach it anymore, and I couldn't use my navigation system, which was a smartphone anymore. So fantastic use case. So who wants to use a stylus? Steve Jobs said his famous, blah. No one wants to have it because you already have a built-in stylus. A fatty one, because if you're using it on the screens, I only see my fingerprints in there, obviously, but we have solved that somehow as well now with good screens now. But it was really, really good. And this is also some kind of visual storytelling, you know, at the end. Show the people where you start and where you want to be with the client at the end. Show what you have accomplished. Show why you should be chosen as the one who been able to solve the client's problems. You know, and keep it simple and focused. Don't put in 20,000 million data into it. You know, for example, we are everywhere in this world. We have thousands of offices and all that. That's also okay as a data, but maybe keep it simple in that case. The last thing I didn't put pictures there because it's getting a bit personal. So use client's language and data is very important because if you have a demo and you use client data there, the client feel more connected to it. So we had, for example, a case in the automotive world. We asked the client, do you want to give us test data? No, of course not. So we downloaded the test data from their website, put it into our application, and showed that. And the client feel connected to this already. Of course, you can ask also Copilot for kind of data, you know, to save some time. But if it's the client data, that's a different thing. And call to action is very important. At the end of the meeting, you want to come out not only with a good feeling, yay, I managed that. You want to go out with, I have now answers. If you don't do this, then the whole meeting was for nothing. So define that. And if you don't want to define that in a meeting, define that in an email as next action, you know, as follow-ups. If maybe some things still have to be clarified, please. And give clients really tasks. Better during a meeting, you know, identify someone and say, oh, you asked a question. That's great. We can now work together with this. It would be great if you can, you know, give me that kind of information. And then I think we can continue with that. And you already gave the client indirect a task. So without, you know, finger pointing on it, now do it for me. If that works, please call me. You are allowed to call me at 3 a.m. in the morning because I just want to know how you do this, really. But only this, you know. Good. create a storytelling thought. So I've just gave you the Steve Jobs example, but is it really now a real life scenario? So as I said, I'm a Copilot Studio guy. I give you a Copilot Studio example. I was sitting a couple of months because I had a surgery on my nose at the doctor's side. And of course, I had an appointment. I should be there right on the time. But of course, I was still waiting additionally 30 minutes at the doctor. As always, you sit there and you still have to wait there. Then, accidentally, I was listening to a phone call between someone working there, and I don't know who was on the line. But obviously, the guy on the line were not talking the German language. And what happens if you don't talk the same language? You are beginning to shout louder into the telephone because this is the universal formula of that you get understood, right? So if I don't understand, cry louder or shout louder. Of course, I told you this and that. This doesn't work. Do you understand me now? Of course, the other guys on the line will say, oh, yeah, right. You know, I understand. Of course, of course, of course. No, that doesn't work, obviously. There's a language barrier there, obviously. And with Copilot Studio, just an example, this is not only a chatbot, it has also now voice integration there. That means if you call something there, it can react and answer in the according language. So if I'm now talking to him in Turkish because I don't, or in Ukraine, because there's a war, I've been settled down, I hadn't the chance to learn the German language in 2 years. So maybe language is a gap, but that doesn't stop me to be ill. So I need the doctor, obviously. So in that case, if you just call there and you don't speak, with Copilot Studio as an example, but there's other examples as well, it just takes what you speak, turns then the answer of the bot according to the language, and that makes the things a little bit more smooth. Because I can't expect now from the person just working at the doctor's side that this person is now speaking 20 languages. I don't want to see what kind of salary this person that at the end just demands. Hey, dear doctor, I speak 20 languages. So how about the salary increase? So this is the storytelling. If it's something personal, obviously, you can just take this and just turn it into this. Create all that thing. Make a story out of this. This is the pain point. The guys, instead of crying, just have a layer in between so they can understand. At least that's the first step. And by the way, a wonderful moment as well, if a bot is speaking to a person, instead that I'm on the line, on the queue for 20 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. This is super annoying. And a lot of doctors still don't have that. At the end, I'm waiting 1 hour and then, sorry, and been thrown out of the line. You can imagine how happy I am afterwards, right? So good. Must have for your presentations, something which I'm just telling our folks all the time, but I think that's also applicable to majority here as well. So first of all, share your agenda. Simple thing, let the people just know what you were talking about. So this is also some kind of expectation management. Second thing is introduce your team with pictures and names and their roles. Why are they here? One of my favorite ones was that I've been invited to an escalation on the client side, and someone invited an Indian colleague who invited and forwarded it to 70 others. And at the end, we were 100 people, 2 from the client side, 2 who were onshore, and the rest were from our development center, India. I was just asking, guys, I talked with you 1 hour before. Shouldn't you work on that escalation? Yeah, but we were invited. And Indian people are so super polite, they will never say no. They're just coming there. But there were only two Indians who were just talking. The rest were not talking. That gives a client not a good moment in this moment. So what are these 80, 90 people just doing? They're burning my time, right? So what I want to say is, if you're just doing a presentation, if you're only there with 4 or 5 people, just put the names there, the roles there, and this is their task. This is their competency. So in that case, right? In that case, the client just knows, okay, he is responsible for this area. Then I have maybe an additional question afterwards or in the break to this person. Icebreaker is optional, depends on what your time, but it's always good to create the first emotional connect if you just do this. A brief introduction to your topic. Why? The client just know about what I'm talking, right? But what the client always do is sometimes inviting other people, because clients are humans like us. We are insecure. Insecure is something completely normal. And these people just inviting others to have their opinion, is it a good thing just we inviting and working with these people? And these people are been dragged into this, have no idea what's going on here. So make a brief introduction, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, why we're here. Everyone is on page. It helps a lot. Show a vision of what you want to demonstrate. The clients are hiring us because they think we know the solution. The thing is that, of course, we don't know everything. We are the master of our technologies, the specific technologies. We have the technology background and the process background and other backgrounds maybe as well. But at the end, the client has high expectations. And they have the high expectation because mostly we are very expensive. Mostly. And in that case, the expectation is also high. But they can have this because we have also the experience. So if we have, understood the requirements which we just got before, and then at the end we can say, okay, we are here today and we want to climb the mountain and we'll be here today. How do you like this? And then you will get your answer. The bad answer would be no, we don't want to be there. But still, it's a good start of a communication. Communication in the very first beginning mostly is rough and needs to be established between two groups. So, but if you show them where we are and where you want to go, gives the client always a good feeling of I'm in the right hands here. They have understood. And last but not least, make some advertisement for yourself. So if you're a freelancer, make advertisement why you're the greatest and the best. I'm MVP since 83, something like this. Or I'm fantastic in development. I've seen all the developing languages and whatever. Make some advertisement. You don't be shy. Show confident why you're the right person or why your company is the right person. There's nothing wrong about it. Oh, now some good presentation tips. I mean, the last slide was also part of presentation tips, but the presenter setup. So partly you've all seen, if it's in person, live, directly at the client side, if you want to demo something, make sure that you have everything set up. Ask the client if there's a tenant which you can use before you set up something on your own, because trial versions are, I heard, not the fastest and the best on this planet, and they lack on speed. So, and you want to avoid lack on speed because clients can't understand the root cause and say, all right, it's a trial, right? I heard they are very slow. I understand you. Please continue with your demonstration. No, you will not hear that. If you hear that, you can call me at 3 a.m. in the morning. But I can tell you, if you can't get access to the client side because of firewalls and rules and policies and I don't know what, create it on your own and be sure that you just create that right on time. So don't create that one day before, because then you get yourself into stress. If you like stress, be my friend. I hate stress. So in that case, I'm preparing this days before. I know this by the conference when I was in Hamburg the first time during the Color Cloud, and I see all the people, presenters sitting there and putting all their slides together. It's very sweaty. It was a very warm room. Nah, if you can just do this a little bit earlier, this avoids stress, I guarantee you. This presentation, by the way, I did not set this up this morning. I set that up 1 week before, sent it to Sarah, and she said, top, you can go with that. And I was calmed down, I didn't have that stress. I know that doesn't happen every time that's smooth, but you know what I'm talking about. And in person, check if the adapter is needed for your projectors. The next tip, obviously, and very important one, make sure you have a good internet connection. If you're working from home, check if your wireless connection is good. If not, use a cable. I really recommend to use a cable. And if it's really alongside your house, from the roof, from the bottom of your house till to the roof, we don't care because the client don't see that. At the end, you guarantee a good connection. And it's the same with the client side. I've seen several times I was on the client side. They give us, the connection to the network, and we did so-called sprint reviews. So we demonstrated what we have accomplished in the Agile project. And it was slow, really slow. And the client told us, I'm not sure if this is the right application for us. No, it seems to be very slow. Our native application before was faster. Of course, is your native application faster because it does not, rely on internet connection. But we are here, to do a collaboration stuff all together. You want to work with this guy from Germany to Japan. If you only work on your native stuff, what do you want to do? Do you want to send your laptop or on some kind of a USB stick to Japan, wait a couple of days till it arrives, and then you want to continue with working? Of course not. So what you want, obviously, is everything is fast. Clients are always about the internet. They think this is the fastest thing. So finger snip and everything is there. Internet is a delay on itself, obviously. You need to make this aware. It's not really awareness. It's not everybody there. But what I found out is, hey, I can create myself a remote desktop connection to a virtual environment and then demonstrate it from there. Suddenly, everything was super fast. And the client said, okay, I'll try this out. And they found out on their own computer, it wasn't there fast on their computer. And then figured out, oh, it's my internet connection here. Yeah, you need to demonstrate that sometimes. It's your internet connection, my friend. Communication is very important, it's the most important one. If you ask me, I've come to a project, been assigned 1 week before, and just came and the client said, that's not what I have expected when we had the first sprint review. And there was lacking on the communication. That happens. That's why you have that kind of sprint zero where you try to establish a good communication before you go into the real project work. But if it's about inviting clients to a presentation, email attendees a confirmation that's been registered. That's always good and polite if you have to do this manually. And before it starts, better 1 week before, remind them, hey, we will have an important meeting. And it depends on the kind of presentation. Either it's a client training, for example, remind them, please, follow the instructions and install your environment. If you have any problems, there's still enough time. You can come back and we can figure it out. If it doesn't work, I've seen several times you have a client and you come there and the 7 people just say, I hadn't the time to do this and some kind of stuff. That happens every time. I always find someone who just didn't have the time. And during the presentation, use the slide deck to explain basics and the main topics, but don't stick too much on slides. I don't like slides, to be very honest. Today it's different because I don't have something super awesome to demonstrate because that's a non-technical stuff today. But obviously, less slides, introduce yourself, introduce the topic, introduce the vision, boom, go into the demo, and then make them bring a smile on their face and a wow effect at the end. So that's like yesterday during the Power Platform communication call when Craig just pulled out the new kind of PowerPoint with the Power App. It did all the presentation in Power App, which was super awesome. I haven't seen that before, but for me, it was awesome. And demo as much as you can. That helps people at the end to understand what you want to achieve and engage people. Be funny. If this is the client who likes that, that's not always given. This really depends on, but you understand that, but you can engage them. You can ask questions. And if the question only is, do you have a question? Is a question that engages, or a quiz or something like this, an icebreaker, it helps. It seems so obvious. So why do I have this slide here? Because this picture says more as 1,000 words. Practice. I told you in the very first beginning when we're doing our training that people do not dedicate the practice their own presentation. To have 2 days, they're spending 2 days on their solution. And then at the last half an hour, they just put something together. And you see this. I sometimes see this on the Power Platform collaboration calls as well, that people just putting something very quickly together. It's their okay. It's not a client session, But if you, let's say, a team of 4 people, practice, make a dry run. Make a dry run in terms of what is a good handover, you know? Nothing is more bad as you have a silence there. And now I hand over to Charles. Charles. And suddenly, if this kind of things happen, or someone starts presentation but forgot to show, to turn on the presentation, also the screen sharing, and you walk away. So if it's a client who's just very patient, they will just remind you 5 minutes later. I think that it's something not turned on. Could it be? If you have a very impatient client, it's like, wow, this is a bad presentation. I don't like it. You hear already that kind of comments. But if you have, a communication channel open with a colleague, sorry, then I say Charles, it could be anyone else. Can you also be Bülent? Bülent, you have forgotten to turn on the things. Do this, not in front of the client. Do this in a communication channel, and then obviously it's helpful. And be supportive in the channel as well. If someone has a problem because the screen sharing does not work, be always prepared and jump in, just avoid this awkward silence. That always reminds me, on a Western movie, so, and then suddenly someone just comes and will put you away in something like this. And it's always bad, awkward silence, I can tell you. So practice, dedicate minimum 1 hour, better 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 runs, 3 runs to practice this, especially if you're new. If you're experienced, that works obviously better, but this is a tip. If you're new together, practice. So you learn also something. It's better to experience the uncool things in the practice as in front of the client. It doesn't make a good impression. And that's it. No? This gets this feedback. No. So this was hopefully interactive for you, hopefully also engaging and funny, because that was the intent of this call today. We want to be entertained. And if you have any questions, let me know. While I'm drinking, sponsored by.
Hi, Bülent. That was excellent. Just one question. Is that tequila you've got in that flask, or is that water? Just checking.
No, tequila. Tequila.
Okay,
I deserve
great.
that, man.
That explains the energy you brought to it. Yeah, really loved it. Really, really good. Thank you for sharing.
Are there any
tequila,
questions?
which is since 1 hour there. That's why it doesn't taste that good anymore. Okay, anyhow.
Yeah. We're definitely going to do a tequila focused VRT next time. Maybe on a Friday night.
Oh, yes.
Sultan, have you got your hands up?
Yeah, now not by mistake. So yeah, now I actually have a question. Very, very good presentation. Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
I would be interested if you have any questions on balancing like technical and non-technical audience. If your audience is unknown and you just walk into a room and you don't know what technical skills they have.
That's why if it's an in-person presentation, walk by earlier, and mostly there should be someone who lets you into the building. If you manage to get into the building without someone lets you in, then you're a magician or a fantastic chief or whatever. But usually there should be someone who just guides you to the room. Mostly it's a product owner or secretary or wherever. You can start asking that question: what kind of audience we're expecting today? And these people know. If it's a product owner, he or she will tell you. So start with the communication first, and you will find out. And what you can also do, if it's not a short one, if it's a longer one, you can also go around with a presentation round if you have the time. Works for workshops. So this is good. For example, my name is Bülent Altinsoy. I'm this person, and my team's now introducing. And it would be good if you all know who we are and what our positions is. And if you do this, you will learn this. It's very important if the majority is business and you have only a few technical people. If these technical people take control, you're losing the business people. Because business people are not really interested in that. The help in the solution in this is, don't say to the technical people, stop it. You say in that case, this is super cool. How about that we discussing your question in a break or in a dedicated session? Make it pretty simple. And in that case, it's elegantly. At least I think it's elegantly. I don't know how the situation. Oh, bring in the tequila at the end if it doesn't help. That every time helps, you know. So, but be serious. You don't let these people take control over, because it is mostly a business presentation. It's mostly you want to understand the processes, how this all works, and the pain points. If the technical people have pain points, then arrange a meeting extra for them.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
John, did you have any thoughts on the presentation or any questions?
Yeah, something that always gets me is how different when you do presentations they are, and it depends very much on your audience as to how you've got to respond and sort of change the direction of it as you go along. And sometimes you've got to like kind of gauge your audience and adapt as you go along to it, and it's quite hard. Yeah, but when you're starting out, it's quite hard. But yeah, it's always good to not just deliver a flat presentation, but really gauge and, as you say, Bülent, get the audience engaged with you and get kind of feedback as you go along.
So the first of things, how you can manage expectation is in the invite you're sending out what people can expect. So this is the first differentiation in the beginning. If you already say this is the technical workshops, then business people already know, oh, okay, it will be a little bit technical. This is the first thing. The second thing is, this is my personal trick, is win the product owner for yourself.
Yeah.
So if you, let's say it's in a project and you have a 2-week agile cycle. If I'm showing my results 3 days, 4 days before the real sprint review to the product owner to gather some feedback, you will get this feedback and like, okay, we're on the right direction or we're not on the right direction. But if you win this product owner is your friend during the sprint review and defends you. So it's very, very important that you make this ally before and make the management expectation before and not during the presentation. That's why it's not a straightforward way, as I said in the very first beginning with this picture. The way to a good presentation has a lot of work. It's not only the PowerPoint you're creating. It's really a lot of work what you're putting before and making allies. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bringing it to life.
Yeah, thanks, John. Just on that point, actually. So how do you manage it kind of going forward then, Bülent? If you've got, say, your team presentation's not gone quite so well or not as expected by the client, would you kind of re-present, do it again, go back with the team, or would you just feedback and do it better next time?
So if it's an oral, I don't know if you will get another 10 chance. You have messed it up, right? But if it's within the project, if it's agile, you have a so-called sprint retrospective in that case. And then you're not inviting your own team members, you're also inviting the client. And then you say, now we're talking serious. Everyone can tell your opinion or her opinion about that. And then it's very important that you be straight to each other. And you say in the Scrum methodology, it's even allowed to scream to each other. You know, it's a little bit hard to do this if especially new to a project and you don't want to. I'm very good at screaming at clients. I will do first. So it's every time a little bit mixed. That's why it's good to have an emotional connect before to understand the client better, because if the client senses that you really want to help him, the client is also usually not mean to you. So these are the moments where you can really work on your communication. Sometimes it comes to an escalation. And an escalation is never a bad thing. I always tend to say an escalation is the first time we're really talking to each other, because sometimes you have not the right persons in the meeting and you're not talking to each other because the chemistry is not there. That happens. So what you can do is you can ask someone else, to be there and ask for just talk to each other. That happened to me in a project. I'm a nice guy. I'm a funny guy. But the client didn't somehow like me. I didn't know why. Maybe I didn't offer too much tequila to him. I have no idea. But I can tell you that I just talk to my colleague, to my female colleague, Tina, can you please take over? Because it seems like the client doesn't want to talk with me. And then this can also happen. So this is also a way of, but these things, have to be talked. And if it's an escalation, then the managers above you just talking to each other. It can be a good thing. Sometimes with a not good ending for you, but at the end, you're not dying. The project, the show must go on, and then someone else is just taking over, and you just go to another, and then it works again. So that's life. That can happen. So, but a sprint retrospective is really a place where you really manage that kind of situations. And you have also Scrum Masters in that case, right? Who are responsible to manage that kind of bad communications, to remove impediments. That's the wording.
Yeah, I think it's and that human element that you mentioned earlier, I think sometimes if you feel like you've done something wrong, if you're just honest rather than proud, I think sometimes that'll soften a relationship as well. I had it once with a client, and I think I've mentioned this previously on these. I could tell I was winding him up. I was getting everything wrong on email, and I just phoned him. I said, "I'm getting on your nerves, aren't I?" And he just burst out laughing. It instantly warmed up the situation, and it was fine after that. But it was a bit of a lesson learned for me.
It happened.
Yeah.
So I had a dream to be, friend to every human on this planet. I just gave that up because it just doesn't work, So
no, you can't please everyone.
That's
There's
true.
lots of comments in the Q&A, just all kind of thanking you, Bülent, and saying it was a great presentation. So there's some feedback in there for you. We're at time, but is there any further questions or comments before we wrap this up?
So last comment then from me, if it's not for you. So hopefully it was fun for you. As I said, I promise you, I'm trying to make it engaging as every time. Hopefully you had some engaging time today and some fun without tequila, but at least I had someone. Next time in the invitation, I will just put it now, bring in your tequila. So thank you very much. It was lovely. And thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Thank
Bülent.
you.
Thanks,
You're
Sarah.
always
Thanks,
engaging. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Bülent. Thanks,
Always
all.
engaging, always entertainment, Bülent. So thank you again for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
And for all
Thank
you
you.
guys with
Thanks,
cameras
everyone.
on. See you
Thanks,
all very
folks.
soon.
See you.
Take
All
care.
right. See you soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.